Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Murtwitnessone, and we're doing a special presentation tonight. This is the first time I've ever done this, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting experience. Right now, I'm setting my slides up, and I've got two very interesting guests tonight that have had a rather unique experience with Timothy Charles Holmseth and the gang. And as I bring up their images, I'm going to see if I can keep from mangling their name. The woman is the most important here. Her name is uh, Diane Mealbauer. Did I get that correct? Diane?
Right.
Okay. And then my second guest is going to be uh, Julia. And is that Beckerman? Or what's your last name,
Trump.
Julia?
Trump.
Okay, and what we're going to be discussing tonight is the interference by Timothy Charles Holmseth into the Wetterling case. Now, 22 years ago, we had a young man, and he was kidnapped. Is that correct, Diane?
Yeah, on October 22nd, 89.
And could you give people an idea of what your part in that particular case was?
Um, well, I was a bail agent at the time, and I started finding out this information about what actually happened to this boy, and worked with a PI and a cop from Wilmer, Minnesota. And when we took it in, we were met with opposition. They didn't want to hear about it. And I've been trying to get this out ever since. And they just run from it.
And
So,
okay, could you briefly give what's your take on what happened to the young man as far as what you've been investigating over the years? Because I know we went into some things
um,
today about it.
well, I found there were 3 perps involved, and possibly some cult activity. I don't want to say names on that end, but I seem to keep finding out more all the time.
I
And
Okay, now what I'd
uh,
like to do here is I'm going to concentrate a little bit on the meeting that you folks had. Julie, you sent me some things as to a meeting that occurred um, and a timeline that went with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then I want you to comment after each segment. And
okay.
this is the way it starts. It said, talked with Mark Mix from Stearns County Sheriff's Department, SCSD, February 19th, 2019. Tim was arrested late February, or this is when law enforcement first tried to arrest him around February 25th. Randy Erickson started communicating with me after Timmy Holmseth was arrested around early March. He was convicted soon after on March 13th, 2019. Now, how did.
Okay,
Go
can I
ahead.
quickly tell you? All right, let me quickly tell you. All right, what this Mark Mix means. Okay, Mark Mix was one of the investigators on the Wetterling case, and as you heard from Diane, back in 1997 there was a confession, and it was by one of the perpetrators, and Larry Burt was there while she wore a wire. Okay, so Diane has been working on this for 22 years, and I got involved the last 5 years. basically just trying to get, all of the prima facie evidence investigated. So when this Heinrich confession came along, of course, we saw a lot of inconsistencies and holes, and there were no human remains according to the warrant findings on the warrant, and on the Heinrich warrant. So anyway, this has been an ongoing thing. Us, working with different various officials, and some of them, including NCMEC, has told us to reach out to the AG's office and so on. Mark Mix was one of the people that we contacted. He's from the Stearns County Sheriff's Office. And, we would just cold call often with no warning, just to, kind of throw them off guard and try to get somebody on the other end of the phone to listen. And we got on the phone with Mark and talked to him, I would say, I don't know, maybe a half hour. And in that phone call, I'm sorry, it was 17 minutes, I remember now, because I've got a record of it. Anyway, Mark Mix said that there were no human remains. Well, he didn't say it like that. He said, we didn't say there was a body, quote, unquote. So, anyway, I thought the timing was odd when the cops started knocking on Tim's door, because this happened February 19th, the phone call with Mark Mix, and then around the 25th of February, the cops are knocking on Tim's door. Well, Tim was putting a lot of this Wetterling evidence up on his website. But the problem was Tim was putting inaccurate information on his website. A lot of it was true and factual because there's corroborating witnesses and all kinds of other evidence. But he was adding to it. And he cannot add that the father was definitely involved and that Jacob was sacrificed on Halloween night. He can't do that because that is not factual. What's factual is there somebody that said that his father was potentially there. He alleged that he was there, but that has to be investigated. So we told him to remove that, and he did not. So moving on, this happened around the 25th, where Tim, the cops were knocking on his door. We had been upset with him on and off because the information that he was adding to the information we gave him, and it was going to affect the credibility of it. And Diane has been dealing with professionals on this. We're not dealing with, any kind of conspiracy theory kind of things at all. This is all factual evidence, and Diane has been dealing with professionals, in law enforcement. Diane worked in law enforcement. So, we didn't want the credibility of that affected. So on the 25th, I thought it was odd that, just a few days, 6 days after, we talked to Mark Mix, suddenly they're pounding on Tim's door. So we don't know if that's related, but it's just the timing of it just seems odd. And then soon after that, Randy Erickson is communicating with me. And that communication started after Tim was arrested and convicted on the harassment charges, on the internet harassment charges, stalking internet, whatever the charges were. And so this was on March 13th that this happened. So this is all in very close proximity to this phone call that we had with Mark Mix from the Stearns County Sheriff's Office. Whether it's related or not, we don't know. But I found the timing of it odd.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the second part of this letter. David Strait and Kirk Pendergrass came into the picture, and Randy said money was no problem and had no issues paying for any expenses with this quote-unquote team she told me about. She acted like she was very well off financially and could supply any amount of money needed. At this time, she called them congressional task force. She said the team was going to help Tim get out of jail and legally represent him. They said they're going as ASAP and that something huge was going to happen. They said they're going to help her and they're already helping Tim.
Okay, you cut out when it said that Diane should get her evidence together ASAP on the Wetterling case. So that cut out.
Okay.
So they basically when Randy started talking with me, it was sort of a grooming process where she was trying to groom me into, sort of a friendship relationship online, and to get to know me better, and she wanted me to work with Diane to get Diane to trust these guys, this David Strait, Kirk Pendergrass. Diane was a little bit, weary of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, the only way you're going to know is if you meet with them. And then when you meet with them, well, Diane knows how to handle it because she's a professional, so she knows, what to do and what not to do. And so Diane did end up meeting with them, and she can tell you, what her experience was when that happened.
Okay, what I'm going to do is what I was going to do is go through about 8 sections that I made of the timeline you sent me so that everybody understands what happened. And after I do that, we're going to go ahead and basically let Diane revisit all this and say, I'm getting your take first, and then we're going to get her take. This way everybody has a full understanding what happened here.
Okay.
Okay, now this one, the meeting with Diane Mulbauer. I hope I didn't slaughter that too bad. Mulebauer. All right, I'll get this straight someday. David Strait, Kirk Pendergrass happened sometime in mid-March. Randy Erickson arranged the meeting. This is when they wanted to obtain her evidence in the Wetterling case. They also wanted her to sign some kind of document. Tim violated his probation on March 30th after Randy Erickson spoke to him on the phone, and he allegedly told her to put a press release out on Facebook regarding the remains found in the burial sites not being Jacob Wetterling, as there were no human remains. He alleged that there was a 1,056-page document with that information on it. The judge specifically told Holmseth not to bring up the Wetterling case, and Randy was aware of this. Why would this be a violation? Talking about the 1,056-page document with a Wetterling case evidence information in it. He was not to mention Kim Picazio. Nothing was said about Wetterling evidence being part of a protection order. So how did this violate the protection order? Someone wanted to keep Tim in jail, I believe. And I believe it was this team, and I believe someone else is behind the team funding, in my opinion. Okay, Julie, did you want to go over that just a little bit so they understand this part of it?
Okay. All right. On March 30th, this posting happened on Facebook, and we were notified of this posting. And I sent you, I think, a screenshot of that posting.
Yeah, I believe you did. I'll probably do that in a follow-up.
Right. And it was a phone call that she had with Tim. It was a second phone call, and he told her to put a press release out on this. Okay, and apparently this violated his probation, even though his probation was not mentioning Simplicasio's name. All right, but that same night, Randy called us, and that's the next section right here. But I have to bring this up because it's related to this. On March 30th, at the same time, Randy helped Tim violate his probation, and that's my opinion. I feel that she somehow, I mean, I would think that if she's working with this so-called team, that she would know that Tim has to be very careful, and you're not going to post things regarding anything. Well, it's possible, that, where you read where it says the judge specifically told him not to mention Wetterling. So that might have been a condition of his probation, because the judge told him not to mention Wetterling. So it's possible that that could have been, another thing that could violate his probation. So Randy would be aware of that, and yet she posted this on Facebook. Okay, so that same night, she called Diane and I and told us to remove our grandchildren off of Facebook for precautionary reasons. She said something big is going to happen, and, we want, this is just a precautionary thing. And she also stated that we needed to unfriend Tim on Facebook. So I believe, in my opinion, this is the beginning of her isolating Tim from anybody that saw red flags or asked any questions, or anyone that they would be, a little bit leery of as far as getting in the way of whatever their narrative was. Okay, so I did as she instructed, and I said something on Facebook about, if something happened to my grandchildren, they'll have hell to pay. Well, that made her nervous. She called me up immediately and said, remove that. So I did. I removed it. I'm starting to see red flags. Then I say, well, I need to get a hold of David Strait, because something is wrong here, and he's supposedly, Randy's the coordinator, but David Strait was supposedly the guy that, is instructing people what to do. So I called him, and he sounded like he had a very bad virus. So I did not keep him long. I just said, what's going on here? Why are we being told to remove our grandchildren off of Facebook? Our grandchildren from photos. And why is he telling us to unfriend Tim? So he didn't seem to know anything about that. And he just basically said, just let him know that he needs to get that Wetterling evidence together and get it to me. Well, they'd already been at Diane's home and got some of the Wetterling evidence. Diane was not willing to give them any more because she was already seeing red flags. So I just hung up the phone, and I think less than a minute later, Randy called me, screaming her lungs out, telling me if I want to be like Tim, I should open up my own YouTube channel or my own website. Same thing, rattling off things that make no sense. I'm very disappointed in you. And so I think she was just trying to really rattle me, and I was stunned, but really did me a favor, because she really let me see, told on herself. She told on herself. She was letting me see exactly that something is very wrong. And so my husband was sitting right there next to me, and she was on speaker. He heard the whole conversation. And so I just wanted nothing to do with any of this, and I just kind of took contact away from everybody for a few days just to get my bearings, because I started seeing something very nefarious going on here, and I needed time to think about it. So I called a confidant of mine, a good friend, and I won't mention his name, and I said, you know, he works with law enforcement. He's a professional. And I said, I need some advice. You know, I need to talk to you about this because there's something very, very wrong here. I find that it's very odd that they keep pushing for this Wetterling evidence. And I find it very odd that Randy seems to have an endless amount of money. That's all she talked about was, I can get as much money as I need, I can pay for what I want, I can pay $10,000 to David Straight to come and do a class on whatever this sovereign thing is that he does. And, you know, so as you can see further on in some of the material that I sent you, $30,000 was already spent between March and May on you know, on this whole operation that they're doing. So where are they getting this money? So all these red flags I started to see, and it just was, you know, I found the timing of it very interesting. That, you know, that this call comes to Diane and I the very same day that she posts this thing. I mean, within an hour of her posting this thing on Facebook, she calls Diane and I and tells us to do this. And I think she lost her marbles with me and laid into me because we were about to ruin their plans, because it was right after this that his probation was violated and that he was found guilty of that. He had to serve the remaining of his sentence, and then that gave them more time to clean out the remainder of the evidence in his apartment, and take all the computer equipment out and store all his belongings. And the next thing you know, Tim is homeless and he's in jail. So now they've got more control over.
Okay.
This all happened. I mean, this all happened so quickly.
Excuse me, I've just been reading some of the chat. Julia, people were asking how exactly you tied into helping Diane and all that. So if you could explain that a little bit, so they understand.
Yeah, I'll just try to be brief as possible. I got involved when there was a sketch on TV on a show called The Hunt, and it featured the Wetterling case. And this was in late August of 2014. And at that time, they weren't even looking at this Heinrich guy. They were looking at Dwayne Hart. There was a warrant that was drafted for Dwayne Hart, a warrant application, and that's who their next suspect was going to be. But at that time, I didn't know this. I found this out later. Okay, I found this out later in my research with Diane. But I ended up sending some information in because the sketch that they showed on this show looked identical to a serial pedophile in Ohio that we exposed on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. And the pedophile's name was Harold Jerry Mash, like the movie MASH, M-A-S-H. So they could not trace him up in that area of Minnesota. He did look strikingly like that sketch, but that's all. But I had sent all my information over to Richard Leonard at NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and he was assigned to the Wetterling case. So he took all the information that I sent him on this MASH character, this pedophile, and he distributed it to all the appropriate parties in law enforcement. And that's how we found out that MASH could not be traced in the area, because everything was distributed, they checked it out, he couldn't be traced in the area. So during my research on this case, I connected with Diane when I found her name, and I can't remember, it was like a blog or something that I saw the name Diane Muhlbauer, that she had some evidence from 1997. And I said, I got to call this woman, because, you know, in the blog they were saying that she was being, you know, people were dismissing her in law enforcement, and she was being treated pretty poorly. So I thought, well, I know how that feels, going through this situation that I went through exposing this other pedophile, so I'm going to give her a call. So I started talking to Diane, and we started talking about this case, and it took me about 2 months just to wrap my head around the gravity of it. I mean, this is serious, serious stuff. And she was dealing with professionals in law enforcement. And Larry Perch, who worked with her on this, worked on over 57 homicides and worked with prosecutors and defense attorneys for 30 years. He was a professional. And he said this is all authentic and real, and this is a very serious deal. But for some reason, there's a massive cover-up on it. So I brought it up to Richard Leonard at NCMEC. I told Diane, let's try to do something different and not work with them locally, because clearly something's going on locally there that's not a good thing. So I said, I know they can't investigate at NCMEC, but NCMEC will go ahead and distribute to the appropriate parties, and they'll distribute something to, Minneapolis FBI. I don't think at that time Minneapolis knew about this, the field office in Minneapolis. So that's what Richard did, and he was very diligent in his efforts in trying to help us. And to this day, present day, he has continued to tell us to reach out to the AG's office on this evidence. So throughout this course, being involved with Diane, basically Diane's done all the work already. She's got all the evidence. This is all her work that she worked on for 22 years. My job was just, trying to help get it investigated and doing further research, picking apart what's been happening the last 5 years. Picking apart the warrants, picking apart all the inconsistencies, and that's when, prior to talking to Diane, I talked to Jared Shiro, who was the victim from Cold Spring. And Heinrich was not even on the map. I spoke with him personally. And that's when they were trying to connect his case to Jacob. And he said they were looking at a man locked up in Moose Lake. And Moose Lake is where Dwayne Hart is locked up. And I told you that there was a warrant drafted for him. So each time Diane and I made a little progress on this, on getting somebody to listen, it would seem that some development would happen. That somebody would try to put the brakes on it.
Okay, I've got the letter up, and I'm down where it says press release, a second call from Tim. He wants everyone to know if anything happens to him. It's hard to read because the circle went right over the top of some of the text. So I'm going to go ahead. If you would explain that part there about the second call.
Okay, I got that. I had that up on my iPad. Let me get this. Let me look on my phone here, because I've taken so many screenshots of it, I could bring it up again. All I got to do is look for the big red circle.
Yeah, because that's where I started it at.
Right. Let's see. If you just bear with me a second, it should come up here pretty quickly. Okay, there's the page where they had the $250,000 goal. Okay, let me go back. There it is. Oh, goodness. All right, so I think I can minimize this on my iPad. Oh, you got it right up there. Okay. So you want me to explain the second call to Tim?
Go through in detail about this call.
Okay, and he needs anything that America should know. Should be searching for the document he filed a few weeks ago in Polk County, Minnesota, for court. To Minnesota, it will be a document of 1,056 pages. Blah blah blah. Okay, so this is something that he tried to file through. He tried to get the Wetterling case on the book somehow, or intertwined into his legal documentation. And the judge said not to mention the name at all. Or, he didn't, that's not the case, that's not involved in what his court appearances were about, or his hearing. So they didn't want him to mention it. So basically, he was involved in putting this stuff up on his website, and he started writing letters to different officials regarding that and the other information that he had on the Tocasio case. So it doesn't, I mean, basically what we've already talked about, that's what this is about. You know, that you know, he's talking about the remains not being human. And that was on the warrant finding when they did the warrants on Daniel Heinrich. They offered a very controversial plea deal, and and Daniel Heinrich only was given a 17-year sentence. He was not charged with the murder. He was not charged with the abduction. He was not charged with the sexual assault of Jacob Wetterling. He was only charged for one count of child pornography. 24 counts of the 25 counts of child pornography were removed. He was only charged for one. He's only going to serve 17 years. They did not charge Heinrich with any of this. So basically, he went to jail just on the pornography charges. The claim is that the parents, you know, gave permission. Well, I don't know that it's normal for parents to make a huge decision on a huge, high-profile kidnapping and murder case, but apparently in this case they could. Okay, so basically, it's a slap on the wrist for the crime that he did. So basically, it's showing you that he didn't do this. This is very highly controversial. There were many inconsistencies in his transcript when compared with the warrant findings, and on the warrant, there were no human remains. There is a separate report that says there was dental records that were compared, and it said that they were Jacob's. Well, there was only one tooth, and the one tooth was only an 80% match. So we don't even know that that's... And Larry Pert said that the clothing found in the site would have not survived 27 years in the elements. The cotton T-shirt would have been completely disintegrated. It would have not survived. So there's all kinds of things that show that there's something very, very wrong here. And so that's basically what, you know, Tim was trying to say in his documentation, apparently. And all that is all very true. The things that he had on his website on Wetterling was mostly true. So the problem is he added fiction to some of it. And when Diane and I were going through the file, we were looking at different parts of the file on tips that were called in. And the tips that were called in were, you know, like one of them was an example of Jacob. Somebody had a dream that Jacob was buried alive. Okay, well, Tim puts that up on his website. Jacob, bombshell, Jacob buried alive, you know, and that's not true, you know, but the cult information on you know, possibly that Jacob was, you know, there was cult activity involved, that was true because there was an eyewitness that talked about that. And the confession is true because there were, you know, not only did the guy confess, but there was an eyewitness that placed him at the scene. So that's what Diane and I were very upset about with Tim, is that he was taken very, you know, we were upset with ourselves over it because we're like, how did we get, you know, taken into this? You know, how did we get, you know, and at first, Tim his writing was decent. His grammar and everything was just like a professional. His punctuation, everything was just very professional. I mean, he was odd. You know, there was some, you know, too much bombshell type of thing going on where he was sensationalizing stuff. He needed to tone it way down. But, you know, we took a chance and said, well, what do we got to lose? Because, you know, we've been going on and on trying to get this investigated. But then he started adding this stuff to it, and we were very, very upset with him because this is a very serious matter. I mean, we've been in touch with, you know, officials over a period of time, and one of them that worked on the Heinrich plea deal, she was one of the assistant prosecutors that worked on that plea deal. And I had called her a year, 2 years, probably around late summer 2017. Or it might have been fall 2017. I can't exactly remember exactly when that was, but I remember her second call. And she called me on an unlisted number after hours and asked me to bring this evidence, have an investigator bring this evidence to her. Now, it's important to note that the Heinrich plea deal was already said and done. And she, the person that worked on that Heinrich plea deal, is asking me for evidence, which is telling you that the case is open again. If she's asking me for evidence, and I've got a record of that call, okay, they didn't charge Heinrich with this because it would open up this 1997 evidence to discovery. And this evidence is exculpatory evidence that would exonerate Heinrich because he didn't do it. So
I think if this was put in court, I think that they would come out with a guilty plea.
correct. So this very, very serious evidence, and Tim was mangling it. And this team that came in there, I found the timing of it very, very interesting after we had a conversation with a detective that said, we never said there was a body. Well, the newspapers sure in the hell were. So what the hell is going on? You know, this is, you know, I mean, this is absolutely maddening. So this team comes in, and there seems to be this endless supply of money for Randy Erickson. He just kind of came poof out of nowhere and befriended me and started talking to me and said, well, you got to talk to Diane, you know, she needs to bring me this, you know, she needs to turn over that evidence, and she needs to sign a POA. Like
a POA?
Power.
Is that what it was?
Well, she had originally told me a POA. I don't know what they told you when they came.
They didn't tell me. I just said I won't sign anything.
So whatever it was, they wanted you to sign it.
Yeah, well, they're out of their minds.
Well, they were. I mean, clearly we were onto them by that point, and the more we were onto them, the more combative they got. So at that point, Tim, if you go further down on the list here that you were reading to me, because I can go back to that list now, clearly you can see by this point, Tim was completely under their control, because now his apartment has been cleared out, everything that they got. Randy got the rights over his book. He signed the POA. He signed away all his evidence, all of it that he had in hand on Wetterling in the other case, the Kim Casio case. And they had all of it in their hands now, and they owned it. And all his belongings were taken and put into storage. Well, the people that were supporting him, they started catching on. They started seeing things wrong, and they started feeling something that, you know, something pretty shady going on here. So anybody that did catch on and confront them about it, they would try to slander them.
Yeah, I
These people
just
know
put
who
up
they are.
the, excuse me, I just put up the thing he filed with the court where he says that there's evidence that Jacob was tortured, ritually sacrificed by high priest and a satanic cult, included his father Jerry. That was one that you sent
See,
me.
he's making direct statements there. He can't do that until this information has been investigated.
Correct.
So he just takes it upon himself to just say what he thinks happened.
Yeah.
Well, he knows what happened because he sees your evidence, but he adds to it.
Yeah.
And it's very irresponsible. But he was a wild card. He was a loose cannon with this. And somebody wanted him shut down. Somebody wanted him put away. And in my opinion, I think these people that came in weren't to help him. I think they were to keep him in jail.
Yeah.
I think they're handlers.
Well, this
And then
has
when
been a
Jim
theory
was
that's
killed
floating
in
around that the handlers
Pardon me?
do not want him out, or did not want him out, and they don't.
No, and the same goes for Field McConnell.
Yeah, they don't want him out because it gets into martyrdom. As long as they're in prison, they're martyrs. Once they get out of prison, they're forgotten about.
Well, and the money and the donations are coming in.
Yeah, they're literally pouring in.
And you got, okay, and these people that are donating have no earthly idea what's going on here. They have no earthly idea because they're not the ones in it watching it unfold in front of their eyes. And they're donating under what these people are putting in their heads. And this is absolutely, to me, in my opinion, criminal.
Well, you know, when the media first came out with this, I mean, it was like TV's kind of like a brainwashing system anyway. And I mean, everything was boom, boom, boom. And I mean, people around here I've talked to, they all think, oh, good thing they found Jacob. And oh my God, they have no idea. And I bet you, other than myself, reading these warrants, I bet you nobody read them over here. Because when I went to that sheriff's meeting, it was an open forum. Anybody could come. It was just me and my friend there. I didn't see any other city officials or people there.
That was odd. Very odd. And those Dan Rathier warrants, okay? Dan Rathier was the guy that they made a person of interest. Actually a suspect. For years. He was my son's age when they made him a suspect. Younger than my son now. Okay? They ruined his entire life. On his warrant, you can clearly, a sixth grader could read that and see that they added fiction, they added false information on the witness statement. Aaron Larson was a witness and he kept the same witness statement all this time. The same consistent statement. They put all kinds of other information in there that wasn't even close to what he said.
Yeah, but see, I talked to him, and I told him what was going on, and he told me they added stuff to the warrant. But what I'm afraid now, I think he settled out of court, because we haven't heard one word from him. Nothing's been in the paper. And his attorney was supposed to come see me. He never did. So.
Yeah, well, and we've had multiple opinions, legal experts, look at these warrants and said they are perjuring themselves. They're clearly illegal. And nobody's questioned that. When I brought all this up to Julie Allen, I swear I could hear her jaw drop. The U.S. prosecuting attorney that was assigned to a Heinrich deal.
Yeah, but
about any of it. I don't think she knew the bulk. She said, well, it was investigated. I could tell you that. And I said, I could tell you it's not, because 85% of it is still sitting in Diane's home, never been touched. And she was like, what?
Well, then, after the FBI came here, then he came back. Well, when he first came here, he said to me, geez, I thought this could be it. Well, then he goes to Stearns County, and the next day he comes back, and he's trying to make me believe it's Heinrich. And I said, well, I don't believe that at all. And I think he was made to come back here and try to make me believe it was. And he knew that wasn't going to fly.
Well, I'm going to tell you that it's Heinrich before the public or the press even knows it. You were the very first person to know it, apparently.
I guess.
So that was bizarre.
Yep, and then so he came back to tell me the sheriff said they are not going to spend the manpower or money to look at this. Of course not. But he did say, he said the old detectives need to come back and clear their names. Well, if they took money, they're not going to come back. Why didn't he do something about it?
Well, I mean, allegedly took money. I mean, we don't know if these guys...
That's why he said, if they took money.
Yeah, Pierce, Noner, Kastriba, those were the guys that were in there in 1997. And Joe Persky, who is a commissioner. Okay. He told us that he believed there was a cover-up and that 5 politicians were involved. So, and if you got the guy that signed to the case at NCMEC telling us, take it to the AG's office, take it to the U.S. prosecutor's office, why are they telling this 5 years after the Heinrich plea deal? I'm sorry, not 5 years. Why are they telling this? It was 2016 that they had the plea deal. Why is he telling us this almost 4 years after the plea deal? Or not, well, 3.5 years, because it just turned 2020. Okay, so why is he, and why is Mark Mix telling you the case was open for investigation?
No. What happened there was, I called down there and I said, if my evidence isn't evidence, you can't keep it. I want it back. And he said, well, I can't give it back to you. I said, why? He said, it's evidence and it's an open investigation. So then the following time, when we talked to him and he said, we didn't say there was a body, I said, you lied to me. And he goes, well, the report is out now. So I don't know what that was about.
Well, he's...
Oh, he was told to just agree with us.
Right, he's very, very condescending.
Yeah. So what's the current status of the case, ladies? Where does it stand now?
The same place.
Well, it's the last activity that we've had was I talked to a woman at the Attorney General's office. She listened very intently. She went to one of the juniors, they're one of the assistants, and his name I'll leave out right now, but I have his name written down. He said that she called me back and said that he was very interested. She called me back in probably less than a half hour. She said he was very interested. And so she said, so put something in writing, and send it to the main email address. Okay, so we did. I followed up the following week, and I spoke with a guy by the name of, I can't remember his name, I've got it written down, I think Kyle. And he sounded like condescending, and, well, We'll give it the attention it deserves. But, I don't have a lot of faith that, I think this is cute, so big, so out of control, and there's so many people involved that it would be utter mayhem. It's going to take a very, very. I mean, Giants got the job done pretty much for them. I mean, they've got a good running start. If they would just do their damn job and investigate this. It's not going to be pretty because there's going to the public and everybody has believed this story, and they've been sold on it, and it's a very different story, and most people haven't heard it. Well, this information is verified, backed up by professionals. Diane even spoke with a professional that worked at a university in criminal law, and he listened to the other tape that Diane was kind of reluctant to bring out because they're very wanting to put this crazy label. They want to gaslight her or me into thinking like we're crazies or something. They're never going to be able to do that because the evidence stands for itself. It stands up by itself. We could be crazy as hell, and this evidence is still going to stand up for itself. And this professor said that tape, the Colt tape, is authentic, and this guy is scared out of his wits. And what he was talking about was something he knew and something he saw. Mm-hmm. And so this is the reality that is going on. This is the reality. And I think that's, I could be completely off my rocker as far as these guys, specifically, being involved because, the Wetterling case, it could be something different. I have no idea. But the timing of this is very, very interesting. And the money, the endless amounts of money is very, very interesting. And the close proximity of where Randy Erickson lives to the Wetterling. But like I said, that's all speculation right there, and we just do not know. We can't say that is a factual thing. I can say my opinion. I can speculate. You can look at the timeline. You can, by process of elimination, you can pretty much eliminate a lot of other funding. The funding is coming from somewhere where there's more money than she has. She doesn't have that kind of money.
Yeah, well, they always say follow the money. So that's the federal investigators. Once they get interested in that part of it, will investigate and find out what the heck is going on and where all this money's coming from, because there is a lot of money floating around, and so something's going on.
Right, there's a lot of money. And as far as I know, I don't know if I heard she's involved in real estate, and that she could be, I don't know if she's selling. I mean, as far as I know, she's away for the winter or something. I don't know. I don't know if she's selling homes. And it just doesn't sound to me like she's got this kind of funding based on what I found out. It's just not there.
Well, she told me she was had a service, like Uber. That's what she told me.
What, she had her own ride-sharing company? Or she had her own... She had her own ride-sharing company, or she had... What was the nature of the business?
That's what she... I don't know. It was like when you take one of these things to the airport, what do they call it?
Oh, it's a shuttle company.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never heard anything like that. So I don't know if that's true. I mean, there's
Oh, she'd have to
yeah.
have
I just
DOT numbers and all that because she's hauling passengers, so that would have been easy to check. Because the federal government regulates passenger services, even if it's a regular van or taxi cab, even. So there has to be
I
paperwork
would think
filed on
that
that.
I would think there'd be record of that or something,
Hmm.
and these people, you know, when you're using the name Pentagon, pedophile task force, that's a serious thing. You can't walk around using the Pentagon name and then on the Field McConnell show set up a $250,000 GoFundMe goal. That was what their goal was, $250,000.
Yeah, that's multiple felonies there because uh, you're getting into impersonating an agent or representative of a federal government agency, and then it's wire fraud because you're using that claim to garner money from the internet under fraudulent basis, and that's the direction the alleged investigation is going is on those two charges.
Right. Well, and it's in the, you know, this activity of, you know, from what I'm hearing is there's other people that this E-Claus, Kirk Pendergrass and David Strait, have, you know, involved themselves in some other cases, and it sounds to me like they're ruining lives.
Well,
You know, I don't know a whole lot about the other cases, but Field McConnell somehow got roped into all this, and he's acting like an idiot, telling a woman, like I think it was the sister of the brother, or the brother of her.
well,
Somebody.
Ms. Ackbug apparently
Yeah.
called in on September 26th to the show, and okay, I'm getting an error message on YouTube. I don't know why, but the woman was arrested in Colorado on attempted kidnapping. She had called in the Field McConnell show on the 26th of September, and the boyfriend or whoever the companion was called in the next day. And so there's the connection there. And the daughter said in a statement to law enforcement that she had gotten involved with QAnon and had gone crazy. And the daughter basically had to uh, kind of disavow her own mother, and uh, it was the daughter that turned the mother into authorities because she grew concerned that she might do something drastic. She had the guns. She was going to pistol ranges and all this other stuff to learn how to use the gun. So it's just, and that was, she had also had some moment with Chris Hallett of E-Claus because they were following each other on Twitter. So there's a theory that they admit that Pendergrass and Hallett have been giving them legal advice. And so if that's the case, then you're getting involved as an accessory to a capital kidnapping, which is not a smart thing to be doing.
And then you have Field McConnell on the phone with this woman saying that this guy's in a car with a gun that he supplied him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Field now is getting more things wrapped up against him if that's true. He was saying it, so obviously it is. I mean, he's saying it right there.
Well, yeah,
So,
that's aiding and abetting a kidnapping. You get the same amount of jail time as if you did the actual kidnapping yourself, because you're basically an accessory to the crime. So they're getting in some real hot water here with this one case alone if law enforcement decides to pursue that angle.
It just astounds me. And another Field McConnell show, July 22nd, is when Tim came into Field McConnell's life. And he says, well, I didn't even know I was from here. All of a sudden, they said, here's where you're going. You're going to Field McConnell. And that's when Tim went on there, and he's acting like a crazy man with Field. And they're telling Jerry Wetterling, come get me, because you're, and they're just going into this, like taunting, and I'm like, it sounded like this was purposeful to discredit this information. Tim, I believe, and he's going to say it's not true or whatever, but I believe that he had been isolated so long away from anybody that could talk sense into his head that he was completely unhinged by this point. And I think the purpose was to make this Wetterling evidence look like it's all conspiracy theory, because, we got this conspiracy theorist now, and he's saying all this, and he's saying that. Well, what the public doesn't know is that the majority of it's true. He just added to it. And I think that there was a controlling factor there. Control how this is done, control what happens with Tim. I mean, nobody could get a hold of him between March 13th. I mean, he did get some prison calls, but especially when he got out of prison. Remember, Diane? Nobody could get in touch with him. Nobody knew where he was.
Yeah.
And then one day he just popped up doing some videos, I think under the Amy Dawson name or something.
Yeah, that was Amy Dawson is when that started to come out, and that was his workaround to get back on YouTube. That account's has since gone stale. It just sits there. And one thing that the Field Report has been doing recently is they're going around giving out copyright strikes on the images, on the videos that have anything at all to do with those two phone calls. Before those phone calls and this case came to light, people were making videos by the thousands off of Field McConnell's Field Report. And then once the connection between Field McConnell and the Colorado case came to light, the two phone calls started to be retransmitted by the same number of people, and then all of a sudden these copyright strikes went out. And they've been going out by the dozens. They're trying to get the information confined to where as few people as possible know the connection between Field McConnell, Kirk Pendergrass, and this Colorado case. It's one of these things where they made a serious mistake and got caught, and now they're trying to do damage control. And so
Right.
for whatever reason they won't take the calls down, but they're confining the calls. So I'm not sure what their strategy is. If it were me and I got caught in something like that, I'd be taking the damn videos down. But now it's too late because everybody's copied them, and they're over on BitChute and everywhere else. So any any damage control or trying to get the videos offline didn't work. People just went and re-uploaded them somewhere else. And it's the same thing Tim did when he got shot off of YouTube. He just turned around and went to BitChute and everywhere else and just re-uploaded all his videos. So, it's like they copied Tim's methods. So,
Well, I don't even know what to think about if Tim was. I don't want to be sounding like conspiracy theorist here, but something happened to Tim. Something happened to Tim's brain. I mean, he was already, his psyche valve came out fine when he talked to me. I remember the day he called me. We had just moved into our new place, I was sitting putting things away. He called me up all excited. I passed the psych evaluation. Everything was good. And then it seemed like as soon as he started posting Wetterling stuff on his website, he started getting in more trouble.
Yeah, he's definitely he's under somebody's strict control. Martha,
Right.
I don't know who's running Field Report right now. There's all kinds of rumors flying around that E-Claus is taking it over, or else Eager Beaver's still running it. But it seems to be kind of at a stalemate right now. I haven't heard much out of them. I'm going to go over to YouTube right now.
Well,
check it.
It sounds like there's a lot of drama going on. Did you read that thing on Tim?
Yeah, I've got it. That was.
Himself?
Yeah, he basically divorced. I'm going to bring that slide up. He basically divorced himself from E-Claus, and did it pretty blunt, almost as bad as he did with Chad Cater. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to go into my files.
Well, is it true that Kirk Pendergrass took off with a car and a computer or something?
Yeah, let me. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here, so bear with me, folks. Let's see. Where did I put that? And let me do it this way. Thought I had that saved and didn't see it here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is going to be a separate section of my show, so. Okay, because what this was a Q&A that happened to be, that Tim had put this up, and then he took it down, and now he put it back up again. And basically, the first question is, did Kirk Pendergrass of E-Claus travel to Wisconsin for the immediate express purpose of assisting Field McConnell? The answer is yes. Number two, did E-Claus CEO Chris Hallett know Kirk Pendergrass was traveling to Wisconsin? The answer is yes. How long did Kirk Pendergrass tell Field he was going to be in Wisconsin? He was there for 4 to 6 months. How long was he actually there? Approximately 6 weeks. Did Pendergrass announce his departure? No, he departed with privately donated items, including an automobile. So he just accused Kirk Pendergrass of grand theft of an automobile.
I thought I saw that right.
Pardon?
I thought I saw that right.
Yeah, it's like, question number 5 on there. Is he's directly accusing Kirk Pendergrass of stealing a computer and a car, and the car is a 2012 Nissan Rogue, and they retail for about $10,000. So that's grand theft auto. That's grand theft, period. And it can be considered a burglary because it was off private property. And question number 6: did E-Claus acquire a power of attorney for Field McConnell? No, he did not. Question.
Oh my God.
Question number 7: did E-Claus file any documents with state or federal courts on behalf of Field McConnell? No. Did E-Claus present themselves to the public representing Field McConnell? Yes. Did E-Claus claim to be working on behalf of Field McConnell behind the scenes and discuss strategy wherein they purported to be preparing documents for the state and federal courts on behalf of Field McConnell? Yes. Did Kirk Pendergrass reside in Field McConnell's home the entire time he was in Wisconsin? Yes.
Diane, did you see this?
What?
Did you see this document that he's reading from?
Did Field McConnell believe E-Claus was representing him? Yes.
Yes.
Did Kirk Pendergrass attend Field McConnell's most recent court hearing? No. Did Kirk Pendergrass take over Field McConnell's YouTube program? Yes.
Yes.
Was E-Claus involved with the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, PPTF, that planned to secure Field McConnell's release from the foreign vessel in dry dock where Field was being held as cargo? No. E-Claus was not part of the task force operation. E-Claus did not know Field McConnell was on a foreign vessel in dry dock as cargo. They learned it later from an expert who is advising the task force. And this apparently is this guy that says he is the world postmaster general or some nonsense.
Oh my God.
15. Was E-Claus part of any plan to secure Field McConnell's release through a barge that Chris Hallett claims he is going to receive from Congress? No.
A badge.
Chris Hallett is not known to have any badge as of this date, and E-Claus played no role in anything and were no way involved in the mechanics of movement of cargo that may be used to secure McConnell. Interesting verbiage that he uses in this. Question number 16. Did E-Claus promise task force members they were taking court action on behalf of Field McConnell? Yes. Many, many times, e.g. writ of habeas corpus. 17. Is the task force involved in any plan to use a badge from Congress to arrest anybody? Emphatic no. Postmaster Russell J. Gould said that in the unfortunate event that such arrest would be necessary, it would be done with the assistance of the National Guard, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the pedophile Pentagon Task Force, I mangled that name again, severed relations with E-Claus LLC. And so that's the second time Tim Holmseth has basically hit somebody over the head and like that. He did it to Chad Cater, and now he's doing it to E-Claus. This is what he does. If he finds no use for you, he throws you out like yesterday's garbage.
I see Tom Morrissey said an interesting statement here. He said, Kirk was at Field's house the whole time, and of course, the only way Timothy could know that is if he was there also.
That's quite correct, Tom.
So, I mean, what the hell were they doing in that house?
They were living the good life.
They were living free in a mansion is what they were doing. That's about a $400,000 house, and it's very fancy, both inside and out.
Oh my God, this is really a tragedy, because as angry as I am at Tim, all right, there's his family, and his family loves him, and they're seeing all this unravel before their eyes, including his daughter. This is craziness. This is very, very sad, because there's multiple victims in this.
Well, I sure hope they're really investigating, boy.
Well, there is an investigation going on. Yeah, there's several investigations going on, because this is getting massive. This is could be considered a RICO investigation.
Well, it's like an epidemic, for God's sake, or a pandemic, one of the two.
Well, whatever you want to call it, but it's really a mess, because the final judgments come down on the House, so I would suspect that in 60 days, 90 days, they're going to, if nobody comes up with the conditions that the bank set down, the house is going to be repossessed or foreclosed upon.
I wonder how much in back taxes are on it. What?
$12,000 in state taxes alone. Now, he owes the IRS a considerable amount of money. I don't know what the exact figure is. The bank named the IRS as a defendant because the IRS has a lien on all the property. And so whoever buys the house has to settle all these liens. And so the bank's going to have a hell of a time with it. And what the IRS is probably going to come through is they're going to put a lien on all his antique cars and they're going to auction them off as a treasury auction. Smiley Denise went to England because she had problems with her resident visa. She was here on a temporary visa, and she had to go back to England to straighten it out, and she hasn't been able to leave since. So I don't know if she's ever coming back to this country. I'm answering questions on my chat.
She was smart, she was saying, in England.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, Levi. I don't know. Yeah, there's questions about the daughters and the granddaughter. There were indications that he somehow got together with the daughter. I don't know if they went down to where the daughter currently lives or she came up here. I believe the daughter does come up to Minnesota every once in a while, but I don't know how her and Tim would have been getting together. But Tim is safe as long as he stays out of the state of Minnesota, because it's only a statewide misdemeanor warrant that was served on him. Now, things develop, he may wind up with a felony warrant, and then all bets are off. And that's, I think, the direction this is going.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
I mean, I truly hope that.
Yeah, by all indications, and I've been able to find out, is we're looking at a federal warrant, because the one task force that's come in, they don't come in for just anything.
Right. There's been some people, agencies contacted, more than one, and there are active inquiries. But I hope to hell they don't drop this ball.
Well, the pressure's being kept on, because there is a massive number of people that have turned in reports to various agencies about it. Yeah, the Federal Trade Commission's been contacted because this is an economic crime. So now they're involved.
Now, what's the situation with this 2-year-old boy?
Refresh my memory a little bit on that, because I got so many balls in the air, I don't know what's going on. That's probably the one that the woman called me about. Apparently, the woman is an advocate for people that are having problems with CPS, and it is her allegation that Kirk Pendergrass gave some kind of advice to the woman. She followed it. The child wound up being murdered by the biological father, and she now blames Kirk Pendergrass because of their involvement.
I heard it was a horrific story. I mean, it was just horrific that she tried to get him away from the father and the grandfather, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And the little boy was only like 2 years old, and they said that he was literally raped to death.
Yeah.
And if Kurt gave some bad advice, and this is an end result of that.
That's the allegation, yes. That there was some kind of advice or suggestion given out. The woman took the advice or suggestion and is alleged that that was the direct cause of the death of the child.
Well, that certainly, at the very least, needs a full, thorough investigation on, you know, the cause of death. I mean, the whole thing and what led up to it. I hope that this is
Well, since this is a homicide, they will investigate whoever's the lead agent is on the homicide. They're going to investigate, and they're going to want to know who is, you know, everything that happened that led up to the child being in the circumstances he was to begin with. And if it was a direct cause of Kirk Pendergrass's advice, then there's going to be a problem. Because, you know, that's, you know, you're interfering with a child custody case, number one.
Well, this whole team needs to be investigated thoroughly. They need to go from each individual. Randy calls herself the coordinator. She needs a backwards and forwards investigation. They need to find out where this money was coming from. They need to find the money trail on that. They need to find where the hell this Kirk came out of. You know, because to me, he seems like just somebody that, like a pawn that they put in there to keep their operation going. Like, you know, he's going to be the guy that's, you know, giving people legal advice, and he's not, has no licensing whatsoever as a legal expert.
No, he's not licensed by any bar association. It's just, you know, it's the Sovereign Citizen Federalist Papers misinterpretation. He claims that he doesn't need to be bar certified. He told some story about he knows how to fix cars because he's grown up with them, so he doesn't need to go to a mechanic school. And it's the same with his law practice. He's read all these legal books, so he figures he's an expert on the law. And so that's where all these seminars are on his Facebook channel and elsewhere, and he's actively taking part in giving people legal advice. And he also is representing himself as an agent or affiliation with the federal government because of this damage control. You know, he states that he's under contract with the United States government, and if that's not true, then he's committing a felony. And he's also committing wire fraud again because he's basing his funding on these claims.
Okay, now Diane, you remember when they first came in and they called themselves the Congressional Task Force?
Kinda, yeah.
All right, they first called themselves the Congressional Task Force. Okay, and Randy kept saying, we're directly connected to Congress. They've got those ties with President Trump, in the third line from President Trump, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Then, somewhere in the middle there, they were the Navy SEAL Task Force. And then, right around the time Tim connected with Field McConnell, it became the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this has been an evolution with Holmseth that's gone back to the Haley Cummings case. He started out being a government witness. He was under the Witness Protection Program under the FBI and the Justice Department. It then migrated into this thing out of England with Robert Steele. There was some judicial panel where he was going to go over to England.
They had the International Tribunal for Natural Justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, it morphed into these being protected by Navy SEALs, and that's about the sign that this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force just came out of nowhere. And you know, it's kind of intermingled with the Children's Crusade because he's the press spokesperson for that organization as well. He's on the board or whatever it is. He seems to talk about the Children's Crusade as if there's some kind of a corporation or LLC, maybe non-for-profit charity or something.
Well, the bottom line is I don't see one child or heard of one child that was helped by any of these people or any of these organizations that they claim exist.
No, they're not saving any children. That's obvious because there'd be press conferences, there'd be pictures, there'd be the kids or the kids, grateful kids' parents or guardians would be up there, and there's not a darn thing. So, and it's just, if you stop and think about how things are run, it's ridiculous. But there's people that actually believe this stuff, and it's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And they even believe that Robert John F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a plane crash, somehow lived through that and is going to be vice president with President Trump because they're going to throw Mike Pence out with the garbage, even though JFK Jr. was a staunch liberal. He was no more of an alt-right conservative than I am, and they say he's going to be vice president. It just absolutely makes no sense. They can make up any darn thing they want, and people are going to believe them. It just doesn't matter what it is. And this latest thing, go ahead.
So there you go. Okay, right there. They can make up anything they want, and anybody's going to believe them. Okay. Well, now you know why Diane and I are fit to be tied that this Wetterling thing ended up on his website, because he's lost all his credibility. His credibility is shot to hell, and now he has represented this Wetterling case, and he's done so much damage. Like I said, though, the evidence stands for itself. It does. But it sure in hell is a hell of a monkey wrench to be thrown in a very volatile situation as it is. So these people, him and these people, have created so much damage on so many levels. It is unbelievable. It's not just the kids that are not healthy, it's the kids that are hurting. Mm-hmm. It's the people that have gotten hurt, the people, the families that have been torn apart, the financial status of people that have been affected. It is, and all these people, I mean, some of them, one lady, when they set up the $250,000 GoFundMe page on when he had one of his videos on Field McConnell on his Able Danger show, one woman donated $1,000, just like that.
Yeah,
some people are donating chunks of change like that, and I can't understand how these people believe this stuff.
Well, all you gotta do is... Well, it's easy. All you do is take out the Bible and start praying, and the money just comes pouring in. Because it's all these people invoke the name of God. Yes.
Believe the facts, folks. Facts. Check them yourself. I could check them when we expose Harold Jerry Match. You go, you do file FOIA requests. You can look. There's public records. You can check people out yourself. Look for facts. Don't go by what somebody tells you. I mean, Daniel Lee, he's alleged to be a wife beater and a absolute crazy out of his mind crazy man that's been married 7 times, and each wife has left him and brief him out the time after being married to him. And Tim condones this guy, what he does. And he's collecting thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I don't understand. See, there was an incident that happened way back. There was a guy, his first name is Malik. He was on Tim Holmseth's Facebook page, and I'd go over there and I'd try to talk some sense into Tim and at least have a conversation with him, which is impossible. and the guy threatened my life. He made all kinds of threats. He was going to come down to Florida and do all this stuff. And Tim said, I don't condone violence, and he blocked me. I have no access to his Facebook page because this guy threatened my life. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And now, all this violent talk is out there about hanging and executions and about sending people to Gitmo and all this, and Tim just goes right along with it. So I guess he figures violence is okay if the cause is right.
What was that beeping?
I didn't hear that.
I don't know what that is.
You guys...
It could be my cell phone. I don't know. Because I'm not hearing any noise at this end. Unless somebody's phone.
I think this is very, very serious, and I'm not a patient person when I see people out there doing this. It's almost as if that they're in your face about it. Like, look at what we're doing, and we can't. We're doing it because we can't.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to have the cuffs put on them, and they need to be taken in. They need to be arrested. They need to be prosecuted. The problem is it takes a while to build these cases. I can't imagine how much longer it would take with the mounds of evidence that's coming in.
Yeah, but
I mean, there's a lot of evidence coming in. There should be evidence.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got somebody in my chat right now that, she's saying they need to deserve to go to Gitmo, and the problem is there's no evidence. I mean, she is completely innocent, and these people have got her being hauled off to Gitmo to be beaten. This is where we get into an area I simply don't understand. There's no due process. These people just get on the internet and say, okay, you're guilty, you deserve to go to jail and be beaten to death. And that's where that's going. That beeping is somebody's hitting their tone on the phone. I know that question was asked. One of you guys is exiting.
I'm not hearing anything, and it's my phone that is on this call, so whatever's coming is on your end.
Okay, I don't know. There's every once in a while I'm picking it up, and that's usually somebody's hitting one of the number keys on their phone, but it's no big deal.
They're talking about JFK here in the chat. This is JFK Jr. they're talking about.
Yeah, JFK Jr.
Right, not JFK, the guy that died in 64 or 63, I think it was.
Yeah, that's the father. JFK Jr. was his son. And what it was, he was flying an aircraft he was not familiar with, and he was on his way to the Kennedy home, and he crashed into the ocean and died, along with a number of people on the aircraft. And these people are saying that he somehow got reincarnated or something, and now he's going to be vice president of the United States in 2020, which is ridiculous.
Well, they had photos that were photoshopped of him walking with Field McConnell and Trump and walking and their team together. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, they did a Photoshop. They had Field McConnell, Field McConnell, Trump, Melania, JFK Jr. is kind of down on the bottom right-hand corner, and a couple of other people in this dumb picture. And since there were 100 people at the same party, they would know that none of those people were there. I mean, this is the weird part of all this. And Field McConnell and Tim Holmseth are claiming to be that close to the current president of the United States, yet Field McConnell is rotting in a county prison, and Tim Holmseth is on the run with no money coming in. And President Trump isn't doing a damn thing about it. So that people should be scratching their head and wondering what the deal is here. But they don't care. You know, they're going along with it.
I mean, it's a very obvious situation here. How do they not know that they can't possibly be connected to anybody at the White House or anybody close to the White House if he's in jail? They would have him out.
Yeah, they'd be out. One call of the governor to be out. I mean, he got a Navy SEAL out of prison, and the guy was accused of murder. So if he can do that, he can get Kurt Pendergrass, Phil McConnell out of jail as a former Marine, simply by calling up the governor. It might be a little problem because the governor of Wisconsin's a Democrat, but what are you going to do? The president is the president.
Well, I think this is very, very sad, and I hope that these people are stopped in their tracks soon before somebody else's life gets ruined. And I hope that they find this money trail. I hope they figure this out. I don't know what else these guys could be attached to. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's the opposite happened of what they said they came to do.
Yeah.
Everything was bullshit. All of it was absolute bullshit coming out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposite happened. The complete opposite is what happened to these guys. And Tim, we tried to tell him. People tried to tell that, something's clearly wrong here.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tim has basically abandoned all his friends. I mean, people have tried to talk him out of this cult-like behavior, and he's betrayed everybody. And so people have basically given up, And it's going to have to be Tim being separated from these people and given professional help to get him out of it. And if his family is not going to step in, then there's no hope. It's looking like his daughter is supporting him in all this stuff. The adoptive parents have not done anything about it. They're probably too old to do anything about it. And so this is going to continue until he commits a high enough crime to get himself arrested, and maybe finally they can do something about it.
Well, when they had that, there was an actual real news show up at the thing where Tim didn't show up to his hearing, and I don't know if you saw any of that footage. And then there was some video from that Daniel Lee.
Yeah.
And Daniel Lee was running around by the courthouse like a idiot, just interviewing different people about what's happening. Like this is this big news story. He goes up to Tim's parents, and his parents looked like they were standing there in utter shock.
Yeah.
And this Daniel Lee was completely oblivious to the boundary that he has crossed. I mean, this dude was out there running around, crossing every boundary, and completely oblivious to what he was doing.
Yeah, he's in a world of his own. He is something. He's very dangerous, man. He's gonna get somebody hurt one of these days because he's got a violent streak in him.
Well, and I worry because Tim isn't who he was when we met him, and he needs to go find himself some help. He needs to turn himself in.
Well, it's like it's like trying to, some of these people that come out of the cult too, they go through a lot to get them back to where they should be.
Yeah, there's deprogramming is a very long process. They basically put you in a halfway house, and they just have to deprogram you, and it takes a long, long time. And usually it's done with younger people. This is a 50-some-year-old man that they're having to deprogram. They're going to have a hell of a time. Because he's convinced me, or convinced himself, that he's all these things, and it's, they have to work on that problem as well. So it's an all-encompassing problem that someone would have to deal with. Let's see.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
That you have for us?
No, I do appreciate you ladies being on, and if you do have anything more that you want me to know about, just drop me a line, and I'll update through videos or perhaps another live show or what have you. And so again, thank you very much, and I do hope that you're able to make some process getting justice for Jacob and solving all the situation with that particular case. 22 years is a long time to be fighting for justice, but you never know. I've seen cold cases be solved for whatever reason. So I do wish the both of you the best of luck in that. And again, thank you for being on with me tonight.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome. And just to kind of wrap it up, there's a couple things on this list. There was another time that he tried to get this evidence again from Diane, David Strait. He had come down, and is Becker north or south of you, Diane?
South.
Okay, so they wanted Diane to come down to Becker and bring this evidence to him. And he claimed that Tim was there with him. I don't know if he truly was. And this was around late May. So this is still when Tim was quite isolated from everybody. And Diane refused and told him she has no interest in meeting with him or discussing this evidence. So that was another thing in the timeline that transpired. And the rest, it looks like the rest has all been covered. So we'll let you go, and appreciate your support on the Wetterling situation. It is a maddening thing. So hopefully the AG's office is serious and they'll do something.
Okay, well, ladies, thank you for being here. Have a good rest of the weekend and keep in touch.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Okay. I kind of let them run with the conversation because it gave a background into everything that's been going on with this particular situation. It's interesting to get insight as to how people can barge into something this deep and totally screw it up. And that's what Tim Holmseth did. He got involved in all this and messed everything up. Smiley Field's background is very questionable at best. There's been a lot of contradictory things come out as far as his military experience, what he actually did. He may have only been in the National Guard. He may not have seen any action in a war footing theater or anything like that. This sounds like it might border on stolen valor in a lot of places. It's hard to say. There's so many lies swirling around. It's hard to know what's going on. Let's see. What I wanted to get out in this part of my segment, I'm going to be wrapping this up shortly. I am going to be covering the trial of Field McConnell here in Fort Lauderdale, or I should say down to Fort Lauderdale. And it will be streamed live as much as I'm able to do so. I'm going to talk to the court down there about their audio video facilities. If they have robotic cameras in the courtroom, I would stream the trial as it happens. If they don't, or their facilities don't match Orlando, I would sit in on the trial and cover it that way. Now, in some court cases, they will allow you to text with a tablet, or I would use my Apple tablet and I could send text out. I just can't take pictures or record any audio. And I could paraphrase and transcribe what's going on as the trial progresses. And then I would immediately go outside and do stand-ups in front of the courthouse and stuff like that. And I would do the same thing if Timothy Holmseth was ever caught and brought to East Grand Forks. Now, the second part is where I'd run into a problem, because to make trips out of the state of Florida is a little on the expensive side, and people have suggested that I set up a Patreon or a GoFundMe or something like that, and I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and do that. That is, if you people would think it'd be worth your while. I've yet to set the accounts up. I do have the Patreon set up. I just have to figure out the part about how to do the transactional thing, and I have to do the same thing with my PayPal, because I use PayPal for buying things, but I never use PayPal to be paid for anything, so that's going to be a different experience. So that'll be up, and if you guys are willing to send something, that's fine. I'm not going to be too active in that part, but this would be a way for me to go out of town and cover some of these places live. Go up to Plum City, take a look at the building where the studio is or was in, cover, if I can get up there in time, cover anything that has to do with the foreclosure on the house. Over in East Grand Forks, I would go over there and I would cover any trial of Tim Holmseth, or at the minimum, I'd kind of take a tour of the area, maybe meet with, if they're willing, I may do personal interviews with Tom or Chad while I'm up there. There's people in here that saw my coverage of the Derek Lassiter case, where I went up to his federal trial for felony cyber hacking. He got charged with wire fraud and lying to the FBI, and I covered his trials and his sentencing. And I also went up to the city where everything got started, in Steubenville, Ohio. And I did an interview with Alexander Goddard. Unfortunately, I never put that thing up. I probably will, because the Big Red film that's out right now, I believe, is up for an award for documentary or something along those lines. So it's become quite interesting where that case has gone over the years. And so I may put the interview I did with her up in a future YouTube video. And who knows, maybe someday I'll get together with her again and I'll do a follow-up interview, because she's been quite active on a number of things since, that interview. And especially if the film that she was in wins the award, that would be extraordinary. So that's in the future. But I'll make announcements on that particular avenue as time goes on. As far as the I'm just trying to think through something here. As far as the Colorado case, not much going on there. The lady is due for a trial that's kind of outside the area. The only thing that might happen is, if Field McConnell or Kirk Prendergrass or anybody gets involved in that situation, either called as material witnesses or possibly as co-defendants, and I may make arrangements to go out there. Page, I wouldn't. I would think the smart thing would have been to go out and get a rent a tow bar from U-Haul and to haul the car back to his home with his pickup truck. I mean, two for the price of one. Why not? But yeah, that's a pretty ballsy thing to run off with a car. I mean, he's looking to get slapped in jail. I don't know whose name that title's in. But that's not a smart thing to be doing. I was wondering how Tim got his hands on a $12,000 car, but if somebody donated it either directly to Tim or to the organization and Kirk took it, that's grand theft auto. You just don't run off with a car without permission. And plus, if he acquired the car, that's considered income, and an income of something of value, and he has to pay income tax on it. So, I don't know about Cindy's legal representation. I would think that she got at the minimum a public defender. I mean, she's had the sense that says she's going to cooperate with authorities. I don't know if trying to think. Yeah, I don't know what the conditions of her probation are or anything like that. Well, if the car is in Kirk's name, then it's his car. Um, so there's no theft involved. So I don't know why Tim is making an issue out of it. Like the way Tim did the Q&A that I put up was that Kirk Pendergrass had no business taking that car. If it was put in Kirk Pendergrass's name, then Kirk Pendergrass has control over the car. Well, Kirk Pendergrass is a citizen of the United States. Now, if he were to rescind his citizenship, he may lose any benefits he got in the military, which I don't know what his military background is. But, what Tim does is he takes elements of fact and then he embellishes on it, just like the lady said. He exaggerates. It's kind of like a fishtail where Keith's trouble keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But the pipeliners, okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of reading the chat here to see all what's going on. Let's see what's going on over in Twitter Town while I'm at it. Yeah, Alex put up that video that everybody's getting copyright strikes about. That was a really dull move on their part because now everybody's got the video. They're distributing it on BitChute where he'll never get it. Dylan will never get it taken down. Everybody's going to be doing it. Oh, the troll is back, and 25 minutes ago. And she says, tell Julie her mole operation did not work. Tim is too smart for her. She was probably going to set him up and sabotage him. She is a traitor. Interesting troll. But anyway, that's a reaction. At least I know that I'm not Astro watched my chat. And I'm going to give Astro the same reply I always give her. Let's see. Because she apparently doesn't realize that these people are in trouble. So there. Well, the smart thing is that, those people ought to cut and run, even though it's too late. Because eventually they're going to get... This Astro's funny as hell. She'll post a tweet and then she likes her own tweets. She must be in love with herself. Well, yeah, not much going on in Twitter town. Let's see where else I can go. Oops, I didn't want to do that. There's two versions. Tim in one version said it was a computer, and another version he said two computers. And the computers did not belong to him, according to Tim. Well, Field's not going to be going anywhere in March except Fort Lauderdale. He'll probably be there by the time that little conference happens. Don't know what the status is of his driver's license, if he got it back, because that one court case that he lost was a while back. All right, this time he didn't take the questionnaire down. It's still up there. Let me see what it says about. Did Kirk Pendergrass announce his departure? No. He departed with privately donated items, including a computer and automobile. Now, on that, it would infer to me that he had no right to the car. Okay, Alex. So I would suspect that he took the tags off his pickup truck and put them on this car. Pretty ballsy move. He has all the way he had to go to get that car back to where he lived. I would be pretty interested to know whose name that car is in. That's the $1,000 question, you know, is to figure out who owns that damn car and if they're going to do anything about getting it back. Route, the police report would have to be by whoever owned the car, whoever's on the registration. And God help the owner of that car if he gets in an accident because they can be sued as the owner of the car. Well, I'm not Astro says me and Chad are going to jail. I guess maybe me and Chad could room together. Yeah, we could have nice long talks. Yeah, this Astro person's making all these um, uh, I'm not Astro must be watching the chat because this is like a lot, she's live chatting. Well, if it's in Randy's name, I guess she can afford to throw it away. I mean, the woman seems to have uh, money to blow out her butt. Uh, I don't know about Field. I don't think Kirk is old enough to draw Social Security yet. Now, he might have benefits through the military. It's hard, don't know at this point, what his actual military experience was. It was probably the same car, Page. Sounds more like a company car where everybody had access to it. And whenever Tim took off, uh, Kirk appropriated it. Well, I don't know if Kirk is a good mechanic or bad mechanic. He's pretty rotten when it comes to knowing the law. I haven't been blocking anybody. Um, I was busy interviewing the ladies, and I wasn't paying a complete attention to the chat. And I don't block anybody. I mean, if people want to be an idiot, everybody's going to see them being an idiot. Um, I spent so much time blocking people back in 2008 that it just distracted me from what I was trying to do, and I'm trying to, I guess, go in the other direction and just say the hell with it. But because people are going to see what I had to put up with. I mean, somebody put a comment over on the Dirty about an old profile that had been put up about me, and I'm not deleting that. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring up an article about the Dirty. Because there was a big But basically, there was a guy by the name of Nick Ritchie who started this website. It's called um, The Dirty. And people put anything out they want. These people don't verify the information, they don't vet the information, and they absolutely will not take it down, except you might be able to persuade them with a lot of money. And, it's somebody decided they wanted to put uh, that up there, so. Yeah, I understand, Chad. It's you learn things about Tim and you get educated, and then you have to decide enough is enough. Yeah, I don't know what the liability is for the chat. Um, Generally, I don't know when my recordings go up if the chat remains or not. Um, I may have to read the toss with um, YouTube and find out what the story is on these chats. I'll be setting up a super chat too once I figure out. I got a lot of stuff to learn how to use because I've been out of live streaming for a long time and all this new stuff. Now I got to re-educate myself. But somebody did a thing on, and the interesting thing to point out about that, if you go back to that link that's on my other video, that was put up in 2014. And what was going on in 2014? The battle between me and Timmy Holmseth. We were going at it because his lies were just getting way out there, even back then. And when I started calling him out on it, all of a sudden somebody put up something on the dirty. And you can be anonymous and nobody knows who you are. But it's the same thing all the time that Tim is fixated with. And Tim had that profile from the dirty in his bit file. So, yeah, Paige, Nick has been sued so many times it's hard to lose count, and he's won some, lost some. So it's basically, he said, it's you know I'm not the one doing it, it's somebody else. I'm like a newspaper. I just publish opinions. I disavow what they say. It's not my duty to prove or disprove whatever they say. So it's a free for all. Okay, the cases against Tim Holmseth are 4 counts of misdemeanor stalking, violation of the court order. He pled guilty to the first, served roughly 45 days. He was going to be in court for the second of the 4. That's when he went on the lam. So he's got 3 more charges he has to answer for. Yeah, Tom, this is what people do. You turn on Tim, he's gonna accuse you of being a pedophile. He's gonna accuse you of being part of this international thing. I mean, it's all the guy has. And you'd think people would get wise to that. Uh, it's cyber stalking Sabrina, but considering the behavior, he sent her hundreds of emails. He made phone calls. He made threats. And in the state of Florida, that's considered, cyber's talking. He's lucky he didn't get nailed with a felony. Field McConnell took it to the point where he got hit with a felony. I don't know what's going on with Westall. I mean, I thought the woman was a halfway decent journalist, but when you start getting tied up with the likes of Tim, you kind of have to wonder about these people. I mean, it's gone from being serious journalism to entertainment. Can't consider what she does journalism. Well, Sabrina, that part is under investigation. There's a number, there's a number of agencies running through the cybercrime task force that's looking into that. That's top on their list because it's a serious felony. Because it's ties in with wire fraud because he's representing himself as an agent of the United States government or a representative, and he's using that to gain something of value, either notoriety or funding. And anybody that's getting funding off of Tim Holmseth's claims is subject to those charges. What flashlight? Who does this, Randy? It seems to be, you get into these multi-level things where people sell all kinds of crap. It's like Amway. I know there's a couple of these people that sell dietary supplements and all that weird stuff. Alright, I'm losing track of what's going on here. Well, the thing is, Paige, if E-Claus LLC is a for-profit company, they have to file paperwork on a quarterly basis under various state corporations law, and they have done none of that. So they're violating that law as well. Yeah, Chad, I'll have to do that. I'd have to figure out where Kirk saved his life. And, it's probably going to be one of my future videos. Because I was going to do a video tomorrow about this, but now I've covered it in the show. I got to figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow with my offline videos. Paige, I don't know what the law is regarding donations. E-Claus, if it's a for-profit business, it makes no sense. What they're doing is, if they're for-profit and they're taking subscriptions, that's called a fee for service. So in that part, that's a possibility. I'll have to watch. Who is Dr. Tammy? I've heard a little bit about this. Someone put a post over on Twitter, so this is a new one on me. Now she's getting into I know Chad is very evil for what he has done to Timmy. He betrayed him and it is sickening. Timmy is a Christian and an advocate for children. Does Chad have no heart? Tell him to think of... Well, Tim does, this Astro, this person that's not Astro is just... number one, she never answers my questions. And Timothy's the one that made the false accusations. Timothy was not betrayed. If anything, he was betrayed by, allegedly betrayed by Randy, who wanted to keep him in jail. Diane Annapolis has been briefed about Montegraph and Chad. Well, I got news for you. Diane Annapolis has started up with her stalking again. She's in violation of the conditions of her being free, and she can be put right back in jail again. So whoever this not Astro is ought to watch what she's putting on Twitter, because this is all being archived. Now, the minute this stuff goes up, Patriot flashlights for $59. Oh my God. It's called alternative marking. Chad, over on Twitter, there's a account. It's Freefield1. FREEFIELD number 1. And this troll comes in every once in a while, especially when I'm live, so she's probably watching this. And she'll post these things on Twitter. And she's got you and I going to jail. For what? I don't know. I guess for messing with an agent of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. And she says that Diane Annapolis has been briefed, and Diane Annapolis is... she earned herself on one website as one of the top 10 stalkers in history, because she stalked Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she stalked a number of other people back then, and she got herself in very serious trouble because she was carrying a firearm around on a college campus. And to be quite honest, I didn't know she was still alive. But, it's this, I'm not Astro. Oh, here we go. Now I'm jealous of Sarah Westall. You are jealous of the success of Sarah Westall and the excellent reporting she does and her fan base. I don't give a flying beep about Sarah Westall. I mean, more power to her. If she can make money off of this crap, that's her prerogative. So now, I used to be jealous of the Levi. When she was posting as Astro, she said that I was jealous of Levi. And in a way I am, because Levi has come a long way. That's a young man that has a big future ahead of him. I admire what he's doing. He's getting involved in the cutting field of technology, and I see a long and successful future for Levi. So on that part, I guess she's right. But, it's just, this I Am Not Astro is just a troll that, for whatever reason, likes to put this stuff up. She's not accomplishing anything. It's, something to do, I guess, on a Saturday night. The videos of the phone calls are still on their field report website. Plus, there's a BitChute account where the people that got struck and taken off YouTube have put or just reloaded them back on again. And I've seen one link to one of the videos on Twitter within the last couple of hours. Okay. Just for the hell of it. Just kind of wandering around saying, "But no, I don't know. Why did that come up?" And sometimes this thing can be... Oh, that's right. I can't get in that account on this computer. So I'll go over here. We will know because I check the court records every day, and I will know when he is transferred out within 48 hours of it happening. I think what's happened is there's some reorganizing going on with a field report, and I don't know what's gonna, it's the minute he's moved, I'll know about it. I'll know of any court action. There was something filed with the House on the 30th. Well, Tom, if somebody wants to be obsessed with Diane Napoles, that's all fine and dandy. The woman is completely nuts. She sent me a big file, about 48 pages of it, and it basically was a repeat of a blog. And she believes in people having chips put in their head, and there's all kinds of supernatural science stuff going on. And she was one of the original believers in the satanic ritual abuse, which is probably what got on Kathy's radar, whoever the hell she is. But it's kind of funny that Diane Napoles would just come out of nowhere. That woman has been out of circulation for almost a decade, and now all of a sudden she's popped back up again. But there's been no proof that the woman is even alive, which, be kind of nice if somebody gave proof that she's around. And it's very easy because Diana Napoles has my original email address. I created a special address like I do for all kinds of people. Well, not much going on over there. Well, if you send it FedEx or certified mail, they would deliver it. They would just have a guard standing in the room while he read his mail. But the piece of paper that this guy sent to the prison is worthless anyway. That's about the only thing you could do with it is use it for toilet paper. And even then it wouldn't be any good because computer paper makes rotten toilet paper. Oop. Okay, we are going on 4 days now since.
Anyone else left to
I don't want to listen to you. We are looking at 4 days now that we haven't heard anything out of field, and he's got That dude's got 12,000 views on his channel. Boy, that is amazing. Oh well. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. I'm gonna do the usual. Held out long enough. Yeah, since we're on this, I remember people remember a while back about drones and how Monty was talking about drones. Well, I figured I'd introduce you to the Blue Max. This is my drone. This is a Parrot. This is one of 4 that I own. And right now the battery's out of it. And underneath this cover is the camera. You take the cover off, and it flies around. This particular drone will get 500 feet up. You can fly legally 400 feet. It'll go for about a half an hour, and takes pretty good pictures. So, who knows? Might have been Blue Max here that went up to Plum City, did some flying around. I've also got my other drone that's packed away in the other room. That's my Mavic. And the Mavic is this guy's big brother, and that flies even farther. So, you know. So I have drones too. You know, when I did the article on drones, well, Linda, if everything works out, we could pay a visit up to Plum City. I might take its big brother up there, because the Mavic Pro is a more powerful drone, and it actually has better camera in it and stuff. Well, you never know. That's, you know, drones just come out of nowhere. But you know. Well, they can be pretty useful. Well, Tim Holmseth said he took off. You know, Tim went on a rant and said that Kirk Pendergrass ran off with a car. Let's see. Let me cue it up here. Because just for people tuning in, this is the article that Tim wrote with the 15 questions on it. And did he travel to Wisconsin for the purpose of assisting Phil McConnell? Yes. Did Chris Hallett know he was traveling to Wisconsin? Yes. He told Field he was going to be there 4 to 6 months. He was actually there 6 weeks. And Kirk Pendergrass announced that he departed. No, he departed with privately donated items, including a computer and an automobile. So basically, that statement right there is saying he stole the car. Marcia, that is not really known. We believe he is staying at his daughter's house, but that's a guess. And I don't know how long he's going to be able to stay there because she has 2 kids, a husband, and herself. And it's Section 8 housing, so I'm not sure how long he's going to get away with that one. I'm pretty sure the husband's going to want some kind of privacy. So, sooner than later, Tim is going to have to go bye-bye. And there's anybody's guess as to where he's going to wind up. He's probably looking for the next meal ticket. Well, Atlas, somebody's going to have to file charges, and that's going to be interesting because these people are all sovereign citizens. So, if they go around filing charges, they're violating the Charter for Sovereign Citizens, I guess. I don't know. Unless they take the law in their own hands and steal it back. But I could always take the parrot, fly up to where Kirk lives, and find out if he's there. But nah, I'll take the Mavic. It flies better. It's a more powerful drone. I've got 2 notifications. Why would I be jealous of Sarah Westall? I don't know the woman. Queen BEWBZ will be attending Field's trial in Fort Lauderdale. Who the hell is that? Maybe I Am Not Astro will show up. Who knows? That ought to be interesting. It is believed the car was a 2012 Nissan Rogue. That comes from Agent 19. I understand that there's at least 2 people in Plum City that have seen the car when it was there. Kirk being associated with Hillary Clinton, boy, that would talk about an insult. Well, Marcia, it's fine, I'm just playing around with her. Uh, it doesn't make any whit of difference to me. It gives me something to do for entertainment. I mean, she's boring as all get out. Because she says, I think it's, when you stop and think about that, all this woman has to do in her life is to troll me. She comes in here, looks for things to complain about, runs back over to Twitter. So what? Yeah. Yeah, she's clearly she loves Trump. So, she's 4 hours ago, she went after Monograph again. Dr. Perry. Alright, let's see what this is about. Oh, Dr. Perry blocked me. I don't even know who the hell this woman is. Oh well. Tammy Powers Terry, MD. Oh, I guess that's the one dating Don Jr. I must rate to have this woman block me. I didn't even know I was on her radar. Huh, that's weird. I get blocked by people I don't even know. Well, we'll do this. I used to have someone that told me there's... Okay, let's search Twitter. Okay, Tammy. Oh, I don't know why she blocked me. I remember this lady. I never said a word to her. That is freaking weird. Family doc from Montana. It's a conspiracy without evidence. Always be honest. You'll impress that. Blah, 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 blah. Another QAnon. Huh. Weird. And this woman's a doctor? Yike. Well, not a bad looking woman, but Jesus. I'd hate to have her for a doctor. Damn. Just another... We have a Q-loon in the house. Oh well. So long, Doc. Now hurry up, Astro. Go write yourself another Twitter so we can see what you're up to. Usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes, so we'll see what happens. Oh. Well, that's fine with me, She just... Yeah, because she had tweeted something a long time ago and I looked at it, but I don't even know the woman. Never talked to her, nothing. So I guess it was a preemptive block. Oh well. Maybe Dr. Tammy will take them in. Oh, hell. Keep forgetting I'm on this damn computer. I can't do anything. Oh well. If you haven't done so, you might want to subscribe. That way, you don't have to use Twitter to log in or to see when my next video is coming out. Oh, is that what it was? Well, knowing Tim, he's probably called the pedophile task force to tell him about the theft of the car. I'm not into QAnon. I think it's all nonsense. Sorry, whoever follows that stuff, sorry, but I'm just not into QAnon. Tim claims to be part of QAnon. He's got their QAnon thing written all over that old Ford he used to drive. I don't know if he still has that thing. So. Tell you what, folks, it's coming up on 11:58. I think I'm going to wrap this up because, I basically ran out of material. It's been fun watching you guys chat. I'll figure out something to do with one of my little videos tomorrow. I do appreciate everybody coming on. Hope you all enjoyed yourselves. I hope everything was worthwhile tonight. I'm going to keep at it. And I'll keep every posted on my future plans. I'm going to get patrons set up, figure out how to use PayPal and all that other nonsense. Do the super chat thing, So, again, thanks for showing up. Y'all have a good night. This is William K. Murtaugh, Murtwitnessone. Have a good one.